This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNradio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Golic. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Here's what we have for you from Tuesday. Aaron Rodgers continues his dominance at Lambeau Field. 1 year after declaring the end of the Patriots run, are the Patriots going undefeated? Kobe talks about mentoring the young Lakers players. Can he really do that?
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Good morning, back and better than ever. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Should be a terrific morning today. We're glad you've chosen to start your day with us. Good one last night on Monday Night Football. And I'll say this, sometimes these streaks stay alive due to good fortune. Aaron Rodgers threw a pick last night.
Oh, yes, he did.
He threw a ball directly into the hands of a defender, and it was not caught. But as a result of that, Rodgers throws 5 touchdowns, no picks. He still hasn't thrown an interception in 486 pass attempts at home, 580 if you include the playoffs. The Packers hold off the Chiefs by 10 on Monday Night Football, and Aaron Rodgers continues to be the best football player currently walking planet Earth.
I guess we can say hold off, because this is one of those 38-28 games that was nowhere near what the final score was. Right. This was a domination by the Packers without question. Going up 24-7 at halftime in this game, and then continuing 31-14 up, and then the Chiefs did make a little bit of a run, but in no way did you ever feel like the Green Bay Packers were threatened in this one. If you wanted to stock up on fantasy points, you got him with Jamal Charles, who only had 49 yards rushing, but he had 5 receptions and 3 touchdowns. So that was a good side from an individual side. But the Packer team, and at home, and we'll get into more of why at home the part of game that Aaron Rodgers' game works so well, and obviously it's an obvious answer of why it works at home with the home crowd, but he absolutely does it to perfection. Every team knows he's going to do it, yet every team gets burned by it at least once or twice a game whenever you go to Lambeau, whatever Aaron Rodgers gets going with that hard count.
Well, you said it yesterday, and I think it's a good analogy that Aaron Rodgers is the Mike Tyson of pro football now, which is you can know what's coming, and you just can't do anything about it. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Aaron Rodgers is just better. There are a group of quarterbacks right now that beat you with their mind. Tom Brady is playing as well as he ever has, and he's beating you with his unbelievable command of the offense, his understanding of what he's doing, of what you're doing, and everything else. And it's a marvel to watch.
Yes.
And Peyton Manning for a long time has done that, and maybe we're sort of at the very end of his ability to do it. But as far as Rodgers is concerned, he seems to combine that with a set of physical gifts that those guys and their prime could only dream of, that very few guys have ever had. I think he's got gifts like Steve Young, gifts like Michael Vick.
John Elway.
John Elway's actually, thank you. That's the best example.
Perfect example. I think John and Steve are close to the perfect examples of this, of the physical attributes. But I'll get back to, he's already a great quarterback, and he finds a way to get more out of it.
Yeah.
And again, this is at home, but you got, and one of the reasons you stay at the line of scrimmage and don't huddle a lot anymore, it's not so much hurry up play. It's just to be at the line, to be prepared to run a play quicker if you want to see what the defense is going to do. So what does Aaron Rodgers get him in last night? Trying to run a guy off the field. You get that buzzword, you snap the ball, and they got 12 guys on the field penalty. You know he's going to hard count you, and for the most part, Kansas City did a decent job, and then in the second half, it takes that one time where you get a free play, 52 yards later, it sets up another touchdown. He finds a way to get it out of you, and one of the reasons is at home is an obvious reason. If he's in Seattle and the 12 are there screaming their lungs out when he's on the field, and you have to do it more, you can't do anything verbally, it's obviously more difficult to do. So why it works at home so much.
I actually have that. Here's Aaron Rodgers talking last night after the game about his advantages at Lambeau Field.
Well, it's the crowd. We got a great crowd. It's the opportunity for me to use my cadence. It's the easy checks that we have. We can go, some audible stuff without doing a lot of hand signals. That's a big advantage for us.
It's a huge advantage. Obviously, on the road, he's talking about, you see the silent count is basically when the center gets tapped by the guard, then you're going on the center's cadence. Nobody's saying anything, so you can't do that kind of thing. And you have to do more hand signals on the road because you can't yell out what the checks are going to be. But at home, you know it. And I guarantee you, Andy Reid and on down and that coaching staff has stressed it and stressed it and stressed it, and they still do it. That one time that is going to burn you. And that's all it takes with Aaron Rodgers. Now, in this game, they had control of this game, but he finds a way to get it out of you. And we kept talking about this vaunted, and I thought this pass rush, because it was an athletic defense, would be able to do some things against a kind of an injured and revamped a bit offensive line for the Packers. They got 1 sack in this game. Now, Aaron had to move a little bit, but I thought the O-line did a pretty decent job. And on the other side, it was Green Bay who got 7 sacks of Alex Smith. You know, if you went into this game and said one team is getting 7 sacks, I would have thought it was going to be Kansas City because of the athletes they have rushing the passer. But it was Green Bay who got those 7 sacks. And, I mean, what can you say? I mean, just really impressive defense, giving up a little some points there at the end to make it look closer than it was. But for the most part, this team, especially at home, led by Aaron Rodgers, I mean, you run out of things to say anymore because he can do more. He has the mind to be with the best mind quarterbacks. He has the pocket presence to be with the best pocket quarterbacks. And then he has the movement and the big play ability to get outside the pocket. And, oh, by the way, he's deadly accurate as well.
We'll go through what this means in the big picture in a moment, but let's hear from our guys on the field. We had Trent Dilfer and Steve Young there with our Steve Levy last night with their assessment of the great Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers was the star. The streak is now at 580 consecutive passing attempts at home without throwing an interception, and he threw 5 touchdown passes. He makes it look, it can't be that easy, but he makes it look that way.
You know, and I said before the game, if you said he was the best player in the league, it might be an understatement. People are like, what are you trying to say?
And what are you trying to say?
Just go with it, all right? I mean, think about it. What if Peyton Manning, what if Tom Brady could run? What if they could move? What if they could buy time? What if they could go sideline to sideline? You're watching what that would be like. You're seeing Aaron Rodgers with the mastery in the pocket, but then having the movement to go all over the field, and you see the throws he makes.
How many dimensions? Like you say, he has so many dimensions. There's no one area of his game that's a weakness. And then he has total command with everything. He has command of the line of scrimmage, all the audibles. He has command of the football. He throws it wherever he wants. He has command of the snap count. He gets 2 freebie plays. He has command of his team. And he obviously has command of Lambeau Field. He's unbeatable here. It's hard pressed to find him throwing an incompletion, let alone an interception.
It really is. He actually had a couple of off-target throws last night. I watched him and I was like, oh my God, you know what's going on here? But that's what he is. That's where I compare him. When you start looking at the great quarterbacks, he to me is a John Elway and a Steve Young who could stand in the pocket and beat you like the rest of them. Or he could move, just be dangerous enough to run. He runs a couple of times for a first down, but then knows how to get down. He's not going to take that hard hit. Or he can make that big play out of the pocket. And he's so as I said, a couple of off passes, but for the most part, his accuracy is ridiculous of where he puts the ball for the receiver.
I'm going to read you a number now that is going to astonish you. Even the most hardened football fan is going to be astonished by this. Aaron Rodgers' last 16 regular season home games, okay? So that's one NFL season. So you know basically what constitutes a good season as far as numbers are concerned. So if you were to look at the last season's worth of regular season home games for Aaron Rodgers, his team is 15-1. Mm-hmm. He has 4,472 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. 43 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. That is a touchdown to interception ratio of infinity, right? Of Google, right? I don't even know what is bigger than infinity. Google Plus? Google Chat? I don't even know what's bigger than that.
I'm good at simple math.
Google search?
You're going away from me.
What other words can you attach to Google to make it even bigger than that? Whatever it is, it's the biggest number you can be and add $10. Aaron Rodgers is the best player in the world. And as great as Tom Brady is, there's something about Rodgers that he's doing. He's operating just sort of a different level. So let me give you some big picture numbers here. Obviously, great start. Aaron Rodgers last night night brought to you by Castrol GTX Magnatech, motor oil with intelligent molecules that cling to your engine to protect right from the start. There are 7 teams in the league that are 3-0, okay, with the Packers joining that group last night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read you the name of the team. I'm going to read you the point differential. Okay, so how many points they have outscored their opponents by in their 3 wins. At the bottom of that list is Atlanta. They have a plus-minus. If all of these are pluses, obviously, these teams are 3-0, of 17.
Mm-hmm.
Next is Carolina with 23. Next is Green Bay, 28. Well, there's a group of them that are together here. Green Bay with 28, Denver with 25, Cincinnati 29. Then you get to New England, a plus-minus, a positive differential of 49. And then finally Arizona, which has outscored its opponents in 3 wins by 77 points. Their plus-minus is plus 77. So right now it feels like the Cardinals, the Patriots, and the Packers have separated themselves from the field a little bit. Those look like the 3 best teams in the NFL. Carolina, good. Atlanta, a surprise. Denver, their defense is good. Cincinnati, solid as a rock.
Absolutely,
they look really good. Those are the teams in the NFL to this point that haven't lost a game.
Yeah, and it still feels like not a lot of people, every time we bring up Arizona, they say, well, look who they played. They played the Saints, the Bears, and San Francisco. Well, you know what? You only play who's on your schedule, and they take care of business. Those weren't games. 31-19, 48-23, 47-7. They take care of it. They do what they're supposed to do when you're that much better than those teams. And obviously they'll get tested as this goes on. They'll play better teams, and we'll see what they have. But we saw what this team had done with the revolving quarterback situation. They were still a good team. So we've all said if Carson Palmer can stay healthy, that this team can go somewhere. We want to call it a resurgence for Larry Fitzgerald, but I think part of the reason he disappeared a bit was the quarterback situation. You couldn't find one that could consistently throw good passes down the field to get it to your star receiver, but you see it now with Carson and with Larry Fitzgerald.
It did feel as though they had changed his role of that offense a little bit for a while there. Now he seems to have gone back to one where he's a little more featured in the scheme.
Let's hope.
They look really good.
They
the
do.
Cardinals look really good. Yes, they haven't played a good team yet, but maybe they've made good teams or decent temes
look bad.
Now, they've played bad teams. They have played bad teams. But they've played who's on their schedule. Let's see what happens. I don't think that there's anything phony about them.
Nothing
They're
flukish or phony. They're going to be up near the top all year.
All right, 2 other, I think, important NFL notes I want to get to before we get to the Papelbon stuff. Drew Brees saw Dr. James Andrews yesterday. Here's where headlines become confusing. So the headline I saw, we're both traveling back from Green Bay yesterday. And by the way, the people of Green Bay, that's the nicest collection of people.
Incredibly nice?
I'm from New York, okay? I've never met anybody like this. The woman, I was hungry when we got to the airport. You ate all these brats.
Yes,
I did not. The woman who made me a turkey sandwich and a bowl of chicken soup was the nicest person literally I've ever met. Remember, I came over to you. I was like, I just met the nicest person in the world.
Would she fare well in New York?
She would be eaten alive.
Yeah.
It made me feel sad, actually. But whatever. The point of it is, thank you, Green Bay. You guys are fabulous.
Fantastic.
Wonderful time.
We had a great time, yes.
But as we're traveling, you're getting snippets of headlines and all that kind of stuff connecting to the Wi-Fi in the plane. And I see Drew Brees sees Dr. Andrews, results positive. And I'm thinking, now, what does that mean? Because they'll always say results negative when someone has an MR, and that's good. So is positive good or is positive bad?
That's a good point, because if it's positive off an MRI result, that's bad.
But in this case, the results were actually positive.
Right.
James Andrews did a comprehensive evaluation of Brees' injured passing shoulder. He also went through a rehab session. He's rehabbing in Birmingham with the same therapist who helped him recover from the original surgery he did on the shoulder, and that was a decade ago. They say the results of the exam were even more positive than expected. He strained but did not tear the rotator cuff. Whether he returns to start for the 0-3 Saints at home Sunday night against Dallas will be determined by the progress he experiences this week. Brees said, I'm literally day-to-day, but I'm making progress. So there is a chance we'll see him this week. There had been, I'm telling you now, you sort of listen to some of the people around the league, a lot of talk that Brees was done for the year. Right. Now it sounds like that's not the case.
Well, yeah, if it's not torn, now it's just a matter of you stretch it. Again, we always talk about grade, you talk about stretching, you talk about tearing. And where it is. So in this case, he, stretched it to a point, but no tearing, nothing that needs to be structurally repaired. So now it's about tightening up and more importantly for him, strengthening up. Again, we can talk about the difference in position. I had 7 surgeries on one shoulder for a rotator cuff and then a clean out, but doesn't affect you as a D tackle. You go out there and you play. But as a franchise quarterback, On your throwing shoulder, it's a little different. If you don't have the power to get it down the field, that's the whole thing in this. Obviously, there's pain associated with it, which Breeze can deal with and most players can deal with. But it physically obviously does affect you when you have no power in your arm to drive the ball downfield. So that's what he's got to get back. He's got to get out of there, and he's swelling that's in there, and he's got to strengthen that shoulder again. And all it is, it's a complete function of time now. That's all it is for him since we find out there's nothing structurally torn in there that needs surgery.
By the way, I'm told that most books in Vegas haven't opened a line on that game yet, pending the status of Drew Brees. As it stands now, the Sunday night standalone game quarterbacks would be Brandon Weeden and Luke McCown. The other story that I think was interesting yesterday is this Ed Hockley, Cam Newton thing.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you this question. So, Cam, by now you're probably aware of the story. Cam Newton says that he got hit on one play in which he was looking up at Ed Hockley for a flag, and everybody knows Ed Hockley. He's the ref with the big arm muscles,
big guns,
big
yeah.
Biceps. And he says that he looked up at him, and Cam said the response I got was, Cam, you're not old enough to get that call. And Cam Newton seemed quite put off by that. And we're looking at the video of it right now. Cam definitely does seem to be taken aback by something that Ed Hockley says to him. Dean Blandino says that, who is the head of officiating, says that Ed Hockley steadfastly denies having said that on the field to Cam Newton, and that he merely said the difference is that you were running. So there's a guy, he said here, and I don't know who said what. I guess my question to you is, just how familiar, Hockley's the guy who's been around forever.
Very familiar.
And you can hear, having covered basketball for a long time, I've been able to hear, because you're sitting right on the court when you cover those games, I can hear the interplay between the players and the coaches and the officials. And frequently, you will hear, I'm not going to use the word jocularity, but you will hear conversations that if they were to be printed in the media, you might think to yourself, well, I can't believe that a ref said that to a coach or vice versa. So I guess I would ask you, if indeed Hockley said that, theoretically, jokingly, I can't believe he would have said that to him.
No, he would not have said
it.
If he said it, he's obviously completely wrong to say it.
He would be saying he shouldn't say it.
Oh, absolutely not. To think there isn't even a hierarchy for what stars calls get, we see this in all sports, I think that's there. I definitely think that's there. Is also the situation correctly outlaid by the league? Yes, it is. When you're running outside the pocket, the rules change on a quarterback. They do. They absolutely do. Cam does look stunned at something he says. Now, is he stunned because he did say you're not old enough to get that call? Or is he stunned to think, wait a minute, I'm out, maybe he doesn't, I'm out of the pocket, so what? I'm a quarterback, I should still get the call. God help me for doing this. This, I've always laughed along when you've done it. I'm going to invoke Seinfeld. And it was actually my wife who brought this up yesterday when we were watching that clip. She said, when you see it, you see them talking, walking to you. So do you have any idea where I'm going to go here?
You're reading lips?
The lip reader.
You're right.
That's exactly right. I mean, I
should we sweep together?
I'm actually serious when I say if you get a lip reader, you could probably tell, because there's one point where he's turned a little bit and says something quickly, but then they're both walking toward the camera. And my wife honestly said, she said, I bet you could get a lip reader and actually see what Ed Hockley is saying.
Well, Blandino said on NFL Network last night, quote, I think when you look at the tape, it does look like Ed did say, quote, the difference is you were running. I think that's where we are right now, and we're just going to kind of move on from there.
I think Ed probably did say that, but the question is,
can we roll that tape again? Can we get that tape back again? Let's see if you and I can read the lips.
But I think I do see him saying running in there.
So I'm going to do the play-by-play for our radio audience. So Newton is scrambling to his right. He's back near his own end zone. He throws the ball down the field. Golic is going over close to the television. Newton is lying down on the ground. Golic is looking closely at it. They're walking away. Ed Hockley says something. Cam just stopped. Ed Hockley shakes his head and keeps walking. He's still talking, but Cam has stopped. He's sort of smiling in a frustrated way. Golic has now returned to his seat from having taken a close view.
I've read the lips.
And?
You're running. That's the difference. You were running.
It does look like he says that.
He says, when he turns and faces you, he says, I can see him say, that's the difference. You were running. Now, what he said after that, I said that was the difference. You were running. To me.
I mean, that's what Hockey says he says.
Yes.
That's what Blandino says Hockey said he
Yeah.
said.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks to you like that's what he said.
That's what it looks to me like I said.
Now, do you have any credentials as a lip
I
reader?
have zero credentials. Though I will say, you know what? I take that back. One game we were playing the New Orleans Saints. And I actually I forgot who the quarterback was, I'll be honest. But
what a stunning development that is.
Yeah, but it was at a point where I could see in the huddle and see the quarterback calling the plays. Okay?
Bobby Hebert?
I don't know. I don't remember. And nothing's going to make me remember. You could rattle. You could say Archie Manning, and I'd say could be.
Yeah.
Even though
except
I didn't
that he
play.
retired 10 years
exactly
before you played.
But I don't know. But I did read the lips of the quarterback. And just enough to get a number, to know a passing number, running number back there. You could figure it out a little bit. Today's, God forbid, I'd have to stop my, I wouldn't be able to find out what they were saying with today's calls. But I was able to do that to the point where I did it for a few plays, and then the quarterback saw me one time and moved over one of his linemen, and he moved, so I couldn't do it anymore. But I did. I actually, and I was getting them right, too. I was telling the defense where the play was coming.
Billy Joe Hobart?
And it was, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Aaron Brooks?
I don't know.
We'll try and get to the bottom of
Didn't
this.
Kenny Stabler had a stint in New Orleans?
Yeah, but that would have been before your time.
I'm kidding. It's a joke.
Stabler would have been slurring his words because he was out the night before.
I'm going to look at that some more, but he definitely says, one of the things he says is the difference you were running.
Now, the point is, he could have said multiple things. They
Exactly
were talking
right.
for a period of time.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
You had a couple of tweets you wanted to read before we move on?
One on the field here with the Jared Allen. You see the Bears traded a couple of linebackers.
Yeah.
One to New England, Jared Allen to Carolina. And
they're selling off. It's like before the trade deadline in baseball.
And what's happening? People are asking what Jared Allen, what's the deal? Now he's going to Carolina. Well, Jared Allen was a D end. Okay, all those years when you saw his hand in the ground, especially in Minnesota, certainly you saw it in Chicago while he was there as well. Well, this team went to a 3-4, so he became a linebacker. So now, you change from that 3-point stance to at times you're in that 2-point stance. It's different. So now he goes to, and to me, it's not fitting in to what they're trying to do as a 3-4. In a 3-4, what you need an abundance of is linebackers, because you're putting your stock in the fact that your linebackers are going to be your playmakers, because you have a nose tackle to eat blocks, and your DNs play a little closer to the tackles on regular downs. Nickel, obviously, passing situations will get a little wider, but for the most part, they'll play closer to the tackles. You're looking for your linebackers to make plays, and it wasn't fitting with Jared Allen. So he goes to Carolina, where Charles Johnson got a severe hammy going on right now. He's going to miss weeks of games there. So Jared Allen can go back out there and put his hand in the dirt again and be more comfortable as a DN. So that to me was a good move. Just wasn't working out as a linebacker in Chicago. So there's some value there. And you go to Carolina, where they're going to need another guy to put his hand in the dirt.
Okay, 1 year ago today, September 29, 2014, might be a day we can pinpoint as what proved to be the biggest overreaction ever in sports. It was the morning after the Patriots lost to the Chiefs on Monday Night Football 41-14. That was the famous "we're on to Cincinnati" week. Tom Brady in that game was awful, and Bill Belichick was asked after the game if the quarterback situation would be evaluated. Now, for the record, he reacted basically with like a stern laugh at the very notion that they needed to put a different quarterback out there besides Tom Brady. But that's sort of where the conversation was. And I have pages and pages of what all of the analysts, including ours, were saying at the time. The Patriots are done. They're no longer a league. They're no longer a great team. Are we seeing the beginning of the end of Tom Brady? People were talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. The 41 points they'd allowed were tied for the most ever in the Bill Belichick era. And through 4 weeks of the season, Tom Brady's QBR was 28th in the league. That was 1 year ago today. Do you want to know what has happened in the 1 year since that day?
They haven't lost much.
Tom Brady has the highest QBR of any quarterback in the league. He has thrown by a wide margin the most touchdowns of anyone in the league. The Patriots are 16-2 overall, including a Super Bowl win. And through 3 weeks of this season, Brady is on an unprecedented pace, on pace to have the greatest season that any quarterback has ever had. That's 1 year ago today. That's remarkable.
Yeah, the overreaction in that game against Kansas City. Again, the Chiefs won at 41-14. Brady was 14 14 of 23, $159, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, a QBR of 22. So, and as you said, we have pages and pages of analysts, all of us talking about, what's that situation, where is it going, and basically, Tom Brady gave us the Just Shut Up award.
Well, I mean, the ultimate, right? So that proved to be the ultimate overreaction. So the only way to match an overreaction is with another.
You're going to do it again?
Are the Patriots going to go undefeated this year? That becomes the question. The Pats now have a bye. And then let's go through the schedule. Find me where they're going to lose. Here's the Patriots' upcoming schedule. They're 3-0. I'll say the game. You tell me win or loss. You ready? Mm-hmm. At Dallas, no Romo.
That's a win.
At Colts.
The way the Colts are playing, it's tough.
Mike, that's a win by 100 points.
Can I just, instead of win-loss, can I give you a couple of words, and then we can just move on?
Go ahead.
Okay. Andrew Luck, the way they're playing right now, that's a win for New England.
Factor in Deflategate, that's a 100-point win. Belichick wants to score 100 points in that game.
Okay. There's a real overreaction.
Then
that's
home
nice.
Against the Jets.
Oh, I love your guys' defense, but I didn't like what I saw against. Listen, I do give your Jets a fighting chance in one of the games, maybe the one in New York, but I'll say that's a New England win.
Home Miami.
To win.
Home Washington.
I mean, I know what you're doing. We're going to go through all of them.
I'm just saying, find me a loss at the Giants.
They can lose any of them.
Of course they could. Anything can happen.
Okay, win. What? You're an overreactor.
My point is, I'm going through the schedule. Okay. The schedule is pretty soft.
They're going to be favored in every game. It doesn't matter if they played the best.
Are they going to go unbeaten?
No, they're not going to go unbeaten.
Why not?
Because they'll have an off week one game like the Kansas City game last year. It'll happen.
It didn't happen in 2007 after Spygate.
Is this 2015 or 2007?
They may be better now.
Whatever.
They didn't have Rob Gronkowski then.
You're doing an overreaction. Go ahead. Enjoy it. I don't know what to tell you.
I think there's a real chance they're going to go undefeated.
I didn't say there wasn't a chance. There's a chance they could go undefeated. You asked me if I think they're going to. No, I don't. I don't. I think it's difficult to do. And what they did was incredible in 2007, all the way up till the Super Bowl. It was incredible. Can they do it? Absolutely they can do it. You're asking me if I think they're going to do it. I'm going to say no.
I'm looking at the games. If there's a game on here where they won't be a significant favorite, maybe it's at Denver. Let's see where Denver is by then. That's
in November, end of November.
November 29th. It's a Sunday night game.
Because, you're right. You look at the schedule, and it's
stunningly soft.
Not a daunting schedule by any stretch of the imagination.
They've already won at Buffalo. I mean, I think that you would figure their toughest division game figures to be at Buffalo. They already won that game against Rex, and, oh, by the way, they scored 40 points.
Yep.
They've scored 28, 40, and 51 points in their 3 games this season.
They have the ability, yes, to go undefeated. Yes, they do.
This Dallas game was a game that you had originally figured, okay, there's a tough spot, but no Bryant, no Romo.
And going to the Colts, everybody pointed to that game, but with what was on the line there with Deflategate, I mean, holy smokes. I mean, even if Andrew Luck and the Colts were playing well, I would still lean toward New England in that one. But I'm just telling you, one will get away from them. I think at least one will get away from them. They won't go undefeated.
If I put the over-under right now, what would I have to put the number at?
I'll say
for you to take the under.
I think they're going to go. I'll say 14-2.
See, the thing about Belichick is, especially if you remember back to that year, he beat people by 100 points.
Destroyed.
He wants
them.
to do it.
Yes, he does.
Their late season games. If you look at the end of their schedule, they finish up with Tennessee, and then at the Jets and at the Dolphins. So those are divisional games. He's not going to take the foot off the gas in either of those games.
No, he's absolutely not. And as you mentioned, they have the highest point differential, save for Arizona.
Right.
Correct?
Arizona has won their 3 games by a combined total of 77 points.
And then it's New England, whose last 2 games they've scored 91 points.
Yeah.
Over Buffalo and then Jacksonville.
Yeah, their plus minus is 49.
Yeah.
By far more than anyone but Arizona.
So I'm with you.
28. Cincinnati 29.
If they do go undefeated, I don't think it's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. I could see it happening. I just don't think it will. But
look, if we could overreact on September 29th, 2014, why can't we overreact on September 29th, 2015? Let's do it. Let's say it. Let's be on record. The Patriots are going to go unbeaten.
You're on record in saying that, not me.
That's because you don't know anything about football.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Football's back, and it already feels like the playoffs thanks to 1 Week Fantasy at DraftKings.com. With millions of dollars in prizes being paid out each week, Every play in every game could take you closer to a life-changing payday. Hurry to DraftKings.com now. Use promo code REPLAY and play for free with your first deposit in this Sunday's $1 million fantasy contest. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Enter REPLAY for free entry now only at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Mike and Mike.
Over under Texas Tech Baylor is 88.
88.
That should be halftime.
I'm taking the over.
Oh, for sure.
How do you not take the over?
For sure. The defense is optional in that entire conference, and I love it. I love every second of it. I loved that game last
I don't
week.
as much. It's entertaining. And listen, Cliff is doing what he did as a quarterback in college as well. I get all that, but I do want to have a conversation about defense in the conference, specifically in a couple of the games, and tongue-in-cheek a bit, because, they are a team that puts up a lot of points. And I'm with you as far as the entertainment value. You pay your money to watch that game, you're seeing some high pinball scores. There's no doubt about that.
Seeing that in the person of Aaron Rodgers as well. Top story today, of course, Packers beat the Chiefs Monday Night Football, a 10-point win. It wasn't that close. KOD picked, by the way, last night, a winner. And so was Rodgers. 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions for Aaron Rodgers. What's it like trying to play against him? A guy who did that for a long time is our Ray Lewis. He was working the game last night. Here was his thoughts on Aaron Rodgers last night.
One of my 3 favorite quarterbacks. But listen, understand this. And this ain't taking nothing away from Aaron. Aaron is just marvelous to watch play football. But what you start to get into is, who is he playing against? Because honestly, this looks like 7-on-7. It looks like he's throwing against air. Like nobody's competing. The DB's coming up. They're breaking up late. I want you to watch Randall Cobb right here and tell me, Trent, when the first time he gets touched? Okay. All right. Touchdown. Yep. Right? That's one. Okay, let's go to the next play. Hopefully it's a different route. It's the same route. Okay, when does he get touched? Touchdown. Right? Okay, let's go to the next one. Hopefully this one changes, right? Guess what? He done the same thing again. Hey guys, guess what? I didn't touch him again. I read that book. So when you talk about the mastery of Aaron Rodgers getting out, yes, absolutely, getting out the pocket and the things he's done with his legs, they're awesome. But when you talk about what the game is about competition. Competition is you beat me. Tell your man to beat me, not me go out and say, hey guys, this easy. And that's what I'm asking defenders. If you really want to protect the shield of defense, compete.
So that's Ray Lewis, and for those of you listening on radio, you couldn't see it. He showed you 3 touchdowns last night in which the receiver gets a clean release off the line of scrimmage and basically isn't touched till he's in the end zone.
There's a wide receiver, and then Cobb is the inside receiver, and basically the receiver, and this is all by the goal line, the widest receiver is basically doing a rub technique or blocking to kind of and in a little bit, and then Cobb is just running out and just trying to live off the rub. And you saw a couple of different options or ways that Kansas City tried to defend it, from a zone to a man scheme, and didn't work any times at all. But to Ray's point, I agree. The play's coming. I mean, they ran that play. It was the same play. You're down there in about the same area. You do scouting. You see the play is coming. And basically, you can't get a hand on the receiver until Cobb has the ball and he's right near the goal line.
So I guess my question to you, Mike, would be, is Ray Lewis saying defenses are giving Aaron Rodgers too much respect? Like, he's great, we get it, you're great, but they're afraid to challenge him, sort of in a way that the great corners, like a guy like Revis, sometimes offenses just stay away from him. But you can't do that with the opposing quarterback. Our team's giving him too much respect.
Not down there, not in the red zone, not that close to the goal line. There's no playing off and giving respect. There is, you have to play up by the goal line. So their execution is horrific. That's the point that Ray's making, is you have to step up and you have to compete and play better. By that play, you look at that play, it's the same play. And the first time Cobb is getting touched is by the goal line. So you have to know that, you have to, through film study, listen, they all watch film, so you know the play's coming, so you know you have a plan for it. Now you have to execute it. If you want to say they're down in the secondary, and you can say that, they lose Phillip Gaines. He's laying in the end zone at one point. Their cornerback with a knee. Tyvon Branch comes in. The first touchdown you saw on the tape there, if you happen to see it, that was Branch's first play. He got beat for the touchdown by Randall Cobb. That's another thing that Aaron Rodgers will do, is he'll pick on guys that are either coming in the game or aren't normally in the game. But to Ray's point, it was the same play. You know it. Listen, Andy Reid, I think, is an excellent coach. It's not like they're not going over that and saying, look, this is what they do. This is how we're going to defend it. And you're just flat out getting out executed.
Here's the thing about Rodgers. By the way, Randall Cobb, there are 3 players who share the lead in most receiving touchdowns going back to the beginning of last year. Rob Gronkowski is one, no surprise. Des Bryant is another, no surprise. The third is Randall Cobb. I wonder how many people would have known that. The thing about Aaron Rodgers is when he throws a football, the only comparison I can make to it is if you're a golfer, you know when you really catch it right? I mean, the way a guy like Jason Day does every time he swings, but the way you and I will only occasionally, like, it makes a different sound, and the ball has like a sizzle. It seems to get faster as it's moving. That's the way Aaron Rodgers throws the football. It is moving faster halfway to its target than it is when it leaves his hands. There's something about I'm sure someone like Trent Dilfer could put a better explanation of it than I can. He throws the best football I've ever seen.
Well, he's inaccurate. He put the ball where it should be, and he throws the guy open, meaning he sees the coverage that the guy is in. So sometimes a better throw is behind to not get your guy killed, or the better throw is obviously leading to let your guy be moving away from the coverage that's coming up from behind.
But guys, there are other guys who do that. I agree with you. But he's got a zip. There's just something on his ball that's different.
It's a flick, and it just gets there. And then you add in the fact that he does that from the pocket. He's still a great quarterback. But then when he escapes, the strength of this Kansas City defense is the front seven, especially the rush guys, to get pressure on the quarterback. So when he escapes that and buys a few more seconds, now what are you asking an already depleted secondary in this particular game to do? Cover longer than they can. And now Aaron is going to find somebody. Those guys are going to win. What in Randall Cobb, I heard him talking about it after the game, and they're not the only team that does it. But, you do it and you perfect it and you get good at it. You have a quarterback. You don't really have to work on it a lot with a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning. When your quarterback breaks the pocket, now you work on the scramble. Your quarterback's scrambling. Every receiver now has a new job. Whatever that job is, come back, run a go, depending on the side he's going to. The deeper receiver will take off, or you come back. Everybody now has a new responsibility, and they work on that all the time because Aaron's so good at getting out of the pocket. And as I said, other teams work on it as well with quarterbacks that get out of the pocket, like a Russell Wilson as well. You work on that, so now you're at an advantage. Now you have more time to throw the ball. More time the defense has to cover you, so it's advantage offense.
So once again, the Packers join the list of 3-0s in the NFL. There are 7 3-0 teams. The Packers' point differential is plus 28, which is good. The Patriots is better at 49. The Cardinals is ridiculous at 77. The Cardinals have outscored their opponents by 77 points this season. 22 teams have scored fewer than 77 points total. There are only 32 teams in the league. 22 of them haven't scored as many points as Arizona's plus-minus differential. So that's where those teams stand. Before we get to Love It or Shove It, one more thing I've been trying to get in all morning, and that is our Louis Riddick, front office insider extraordinaire, who joined us yesterday, also was on. This was with Ryan and Danny, right? He was with Russillo and Cannell yesterday afternoon, and they were talking about the struggles of Colin Kaepernick. And I saw some hilarious stuff on Twitter yesterday. I'm a Kaepernick fan. Obviously, he's been bad. But they were. I saw some great, these spoof stories about the great chemistry that he had developed with the Arizona Cardinal defenders. I mean, it was very funny because he throws the two pick sixes right out of the chute. But anyway, we know that he signed the big contract, but that it was done in such a team-friendly way that they can get out of it scot-free at the end of this year. And Louis Riddick was saying he thinks they might.
They have until April the 1st to decide what to do with him. Because after the 2015 season, nothing is fully guaranteed. Everything is conditionally guaranteed only for injury until April the 1st, where his base salary for 2016 becomes fully guaranteed. And right now, after the way he started in that game last week, it just doesn't look like, I don't care if you want to support Cap and you want to believe that he still needs time. It doesn't look like the kid is progressing to the point where he will be able to be the kind of quarterback that you'll be able to trust and count on without everything else being good around him. And right now, the 49ers don't have everything else around him like they used to. So you're right. That one's up in the air, and I could definitely see them moving on if they can find another alternative.
Which, of course, is the big if.
Sure.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
I ask this to the fans of the, roughly half the teams in the National Football League that don't have a top-flight quarterback. I always say, when people, I remember when Eli signed his deal and I was hearing people grumbling, is he worth the money? The only people who ever ask that question are fans of teams that have a quarterback. If you're a fan of a team that doesn't have a quarterback, you don't worry about how much the good ones cost because you know how important one is. So my question to you is, if you're a fan of a team that doesn't have a top-flight quarterback, do you want Colin Kaepernick? Mike, I'm asking you.
Well, I mean, as a fan, you're going to say, I want any quarterback that's better than my quarterback. I think you do. But as a team, you have to
looking for an answer. Sometimes get like Jay Cutler is better than a lot of other quarterbacks.
Right.
But I don't want him. He's better than the quarterback the Jets have, but I don't want him.
Right.
Because once you hitch your horse to that wagon, that's whatever, your wagon to that horse, you are now going to have to follow it for a period of time. And if you're convinced that horse isn't leading you where you want it to go, I'd rather keep looking. You know what I'm saying? So my question is, do you want Kaepernick or do you want to keep looking? Kaepernick 2 years ago, he was in the Super Bowl. Right? He was off to the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Russell Wilson were the only quarterbacks with a higher win percentage in the 2012 and 13 seasons than Kaepernick.
But let me ask you a question. If I just blindly say as well, and not everything is on stats, but there are stats you go, wow, that's great, or oh my God, that's just horrific. If your quarterback completed 60% of his passes for just under 3,400 yards, had 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, had a rating of 86, 87, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's what he was last year.
Right, with Jim Harbaugh as his coach.
Yeah, that's what he was last year. So, first and foremost.
And he ran it. I mean, what did he run it for? Because with him, you have to factor in the running.
Last year, he ran for 639 yards, 6 yards a carry.
I mean, that makes a big difference, right?
It absolutely does.
You don't just look at the passing numbers.
First and foremost, it's way too early to tell. And Lewis knows that. But I understand what Lewis is doing is looking at it from a money structure standpoint and the team-friendly deal that he signed. I still think you have to ask yourself, what else is out there? You want to hand the keys to Blaine Gabbert? Who's going to be your quarterback, in San Francisco?
Certainly not Blaine Gabbert.
Are you waiting for the draft? All of a sudden, all the quarterbacks in this year's draft, are there any that are saying, wow, these are got to have guys right now? You have the Connor Cooks of the world from Michigan State, who now seems to be the guy that everybody's kind of pointing to. As maybe the number one. Hackenberg was that guy from Penn State. So Jared Goff, right? He's another name from Cal, right?
Cal, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I mean,
like him.
Are any of these
Cardale Jones? I mean, let's see how his season goes.
Yeah, we'll see. But I don't think at this point anybody's salivating over that. So are you saying let's wait till the draft? Are we going to be bad enough where we can get one of the top quarterbacks? Or do we think that's the new way to go at this point? Or is there another quarterback in this quarterback shifting industry that we can get to our team that we would take? Because most quarterbacks, if they stay on their team, that means their team either thinks A, they're good enough to be there, or B, they're like, maybe what else is the other option? And that's, I think, where you are in San Francisco. First and foremost, I still think it's too early to ask that question. But then you'll get to it. If he's horrific, that answers itself. If he's pretty good, but, boy, not what he was a couple of years ago, then you ask yourself, okay, A, is it worth the money going forward? And B, what's the other option?
We are Mike and Mike. Let's know what you think. I'm fascinated to see this thing. I mean, the collapse of the 49ers, they had a very good opening Monday night win against Minnesota. Since then, they have just been humiliated in back-to-back games. We'll see if they're able to right that ship. Speaking of humiliating, here's Bubba.
It's time for another edition of Love It,
Oh, this is fun.
or Shove It with Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio.
Bubba, we'll give you one moment. This is the first time we've had a chance to chat with you since the Mets actually locked up the National League East. Congratulations, you have waited. Bubba, for those not watching on TV, is holding up the New York Post with the front page.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just reading about the Mets winning the NL East. Were you saying something?
Very well done. Congratulations. How are you feeling? How excited are you? What are the emotions like right now?
Well, I'll just let Harry Rose explain it.
Put it in the books!
But yeah, I'm feeling great. Looking forward to hopefully going to some games, and DeGrom's ready to go. Game one, let's do it.
I give Bubba a lot of credit, all kidding aside, because Bubba is a guy who, through the lean years, was going to games. He was always going down there and it's not, from where he lives, getting to Citi Field is not that easy to do. He lives up in, it's got to be about 100 miles, but he goes to games regularly. He's a real good fan.
Yes,
so is Ray. So I'm happy
yes.
for these guys and all the long-suffering Met fans. All right, Bubba's got Love It or Shove It. He's got headlines, and we either love them or shove them. Bubba, let's go.
All right, the addition of Jared Allen by the Panthers will have a significant impact on the NFC South race. Love it or shove it?
I'm going to shove it because you used the word significant. I think it can help Carolina in their quest, but I don't know if it's going to be significant, and that's why I answer it this way, because you used that word. He's a guy who, before he went to Chicago, the last year in Kansas City and then his years in Minnesota, had 7 straight double-digit sack years. One year, I believe, it was 22 sacks. He had 5.5 last year for Chicago. And as I mentioned, this year they went to that 3-4. So at a linebacker, it's a kind of a different thing for him. It's just not working out. You look at Carolina right now. They have 7 sacks so far as a team. They lose Charles Johnson. Remember, Greg Hardy's not there anymore. He's in Dallas. It's a big pass rusher for him. Charles Johnson he's going to miss a significant amount of time with a big hamstring injury. So I do think he can come in and help. But because of the word significant impact, I'll say I shove it, but I do think it can help Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, significant is a word that's, you can define it sort of any way you want to. So just for the sake of taking the other side, I'll go the other way. I still think he's a player who can make a difference, especially if you only need him to do limited things, as you just said. So I'll say I love it because I like the Panthers. I picked them to win that division. I think they're going to. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, and their defense is a lot better than most people realize. And they're playing without Kuechly. Hopefully he'll start coming back. It looks like
he passed the last phase of the concussion protocol. Looks like, hopefully for them, he'll start practicing tomorrow and then get back on the field again. They need him.
Love it or shove it with Bubba, brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price. Join DollarShaveClub.com today. Bubba, next.
I'll just hit the transition for you.
Put it in the butts!
The Steelers will go at least 500 with Michael Vick as their starting quarterback. Love it or shove it?
I hate to say it.
We'll say 6 games, right? Let's do that. Is that
Pick
what
any number you want. I shove it. And I think the people who are saying they love it have not been watching Michael Vick play the last couple of years. I think they're going to struggle mightily. I think the Steelers' chances of righting the ship this year are going to be based on how quickly Roethlisberger can get back. I love Le'Veon Bell. I love Antonio Brown. They're going to get a bunch of other players. There's a whole cavalry coming back. But the leader of that group is Ben. And if you look at their schedule, home Baltimore Thursday night, that's a loss. At San Diego, home Arizona, at Kansas City, and then Cincinnati. I think there's a real chance they're going to lose all of those games. Well, I do not think they're going to win.
Then
half.
there's I'm saying 6 games, and then there's Oakland as well. Baltimore, San Diego, Arizona, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Oakland. I love it. I say they will go 500.
Not me.
I think they can go 3-3. Then at that point, we'll see how far they're behind Cincinnati, who has the next 3 games are pretty tough themselves. I've said this about Vic as well. We know he turns the ball over. And I think it's very hard to harness a guy like that, say don't do too much when he's a guy used to trying to do too much. So I'm saying this with some trepidation, no doubt about it, but I do like other talent they have on the offense. I think the defense is coming along, so I love that. I think they can go 3-3.
We disagree. Bubba, next.
Put it in the butts!
The useless Nationals suspend Jonathan Papelbon for 4 games, ending his season. Love it or shove it?
Love it. It was the easy move to make. Again, I still can't believe Matt Williams sent him out there to pitch. He says he didn't see the incident, and while I can't call him a liar, I think that was a conversation that took place afterwards where someone said, are you out of your mind? You sent him back out there to pitch again? They have to find any way they possibly can to get rid of him.
You had to do it. You had to suspend him, even if there are those, even in that clubhouse, that maybe secretly are saying, good, I'm glad somebody did something to that kid. He needs to start playing the game the right way a little better, even though he's going to be your National League MVP. There are detractors of his that, don't like kind of his style or his brash attitude. That being said, you can't do that. You can't do that in the dugout. You can't choke hold your guy in the dugout after you've berated him as he's walking in to the dugout. You just can't. You want to get after him inside the clubhouse? More power to you. Have that confrontation in there. Okay. But out here, no, you can't. So I love this.
Bubba, next.
Put it in the butts!
The winner of this Saturday's Notre Dame-Clemson matchup will make the college football playoff. Love it or shove it?
I will say love it because I am on record as saying I took Clemson to make the Final Four because they have all their big games at home. They're going to get Florida State at home. They're going to get Georgia Tech at home. I don't know how good Georgia Tech is at this point. They lost to Duke, but I still think they're a good team. They lost to Duke and Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is a good team, but they're banged up, and they're going on the road in a very tough place to play in Death Valley. Look, Notre Dame will shock me if they win this game. I've been very impressed with what they've done so far, but I expect Clemson to win, and I do expect Clemson to make the Final Four, so I'll say I love it.
I had neither of these teams in my Final Four, but I could certainly understand Greeny's the thought of Clemson with the schedule they have if they're to win this. If Notre Dame wins this game, two other ranked teams on their schedule in October, it's USC, and then the last game of the year is Stanford. So both Pac-12 teams, we'll see how those teams are doing through the year. Notre Dame is really playing well even after the injuries, especially against Georgia Tech, as I mentioned, with that defense and what they did. They're going to need that defense to step up big time in Death Valley again. This is a big game.
But what's the line on that game, just real quick? I'm curious to see. There are several really big college games this weekend, obviously, headlined by Alabama, Georgia, and this one, and a couple of others. Clemson minus how many?
1.
1?
Yeah.
1 at home.
Notre Dame's been playing well. I mean, to do what
I'm
they
not
did
saying
against Georgia
no.
Tech.
I was very impressed.
Yeah.
I've said I'll give you my Final Four every single week. I would have Notre Dame in my Final Four right now based on what teams have accomplished to this point.
There will be those that say, well, Georgia Tech was thought to be a good game, then they went and lost to Duke, so maybe they're not, it's the old thing you always hear. Maybe
I don't buy that. Duke's a good team.
I'm with you. I'm with you, but that's what you end up hearing. Because I don't have either team in my Final Four and I want to be right, I'll shove that, even though I'd love to see my alma mater in the Final Four.
There's a few more from Bubba. I want to get those in. We'll do those next. Alex Smith got destroyed on Twitter last night by a former teammate. You'll hear about that coming up. Just killing my tease. And I got teases here. I mean, I give seminars on teasing, and Bubba's just killing it.
Put it in the books!
It's too much.
Yes.
All right, you can continue.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Interesting story just came across here. I guess it's in the New York Post about a sleep therapist. The Jets and Dolphins are going to London, and the Jets brought in a sleep therapist yesterday to talk about how to work on their body adjusting. I'm interested in that for two reasons. Obviously, the Jets being involved are one of them. But the other is, this is the one area, look, no one on the planet should feel sorry for Mike and me. We have a great job and all that kind of stuff. But the hours, the challenge of the hours are, it is sort of like constantly on jet lag. Because you don't live your weekends on the same time schedule that you live your weekdays. So I'm fascinated by things like sleep therapy and all that kind of stuff, always trying to figure out how not to feel tired all the time. So I'm going to read that story, and I'll let you know if there's any interesting notes in it about, did you play in London? You didn't play regular season games in London.
We played. I went there twice to play in the preseason, and what you do is you go practice there for the week. So you're there for the week before the preseason game, for a chance to catch up any way you can, because it's a 5-hour time difference.
They're playing a game that's at 9:30 in the morning by their body clock Eastern time. Now, these are both Eastern time zone teams.
The flight isn't the big deal. The flight is like going from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Shorter than Seattle.
Exactly. So it is the time difference. It's the 5-hour time difference you're trying to get used to. So they're flying on them already. The Jets are flying. They practice here Wednesday and Thursday and then fly to London on Thursday night. So it is different from when I was there. We were there the entire week. So a big difference there between that and going just for a couple of days. And as far as this thing, I'm interested in this as well, because it's one thing to say these should be your sleep patterns. It's another thing to lay down and try and go to sleep when it's out of your comfort zone, so to speak, of when you normally go to sleep. Yeah, go to sleep here, unless you're popping the sleeping pills to try and really, and maybe they are, to try and get in that cycle. But if you're not, it's very, very like when we did the Super Bowl in San Diego years ago. We're pulling the blinds in our hotel room at 6:30, 7 o'clock.
We're going to San Francisco this year.
Well, that's exactly right. So the show is at 3 o'clock, and we obviously be there, a while before the show starts. So you try and simulate darkness, pull the shades, get it dark, and you're laying in bed at 6:30. But even though it's 9:30 back home, where we're from in the East Coast, it's tough. It's tough to just fall asleep.
Anyone who's ever traveled to Europe also knows waking up in the morning is the hard part. Mm-hmm. When you're there, you could say, okay, we're going to go in sightseeing today. We're all going to meet for breakfast at 8 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, no one is up.
You're drooling.
You can't even move. So they're going to try and play a game that way. So I personally always find that stuff interesting. Do we have time to play the Kobe? We do. Kobe Bryant sat down with Shelley Smith. This was the last question in Bubba's Love It or Shove It, was about Kobe and his future. And we all saw this Kobe interview with Shelley Smith and all thought it was just fabulous. So much interesting stuff from Kobe yesterday. We wanted to play the whole thing. This was Kobe Bryant yesterday with our Shelley Smith.
It's really not a big deal to me. Like, if I can play, I'll play. If I can't, I won't. If it's we have certain minutes that we feel like are the best minutes for me to play, whether it's 30 or 35, and we'll stick to that. I mean, my job is when I'm playing to play at a high level. When I train in the summertime, train to play 48 minutes, and I'm ready for that.
When you look at your guys, what do you see out there around you?
Youth. But it's exciting because I look at them and I can remember when I was starting my journey and being at that age and just wanting to be a sponge, just soak it all in, right? So it's fun to be a part of that and to see, kind of the cyclical nature of sports.
Yeah, it's fun. I mentor a lot of students as well, and they make it more fun for me to bring them along with me.
Makes
see
you
it
feel
through their
younger,
eyes.
right? Because you're around them.
That.
But but like to me, like you're sitting there, you're talking to them, you're teaching, and they're just kind of like, this is cool because they're seeing everything for the first time.
Yes.
Right. So it's like through teaching, you become inspired yourself.
How good can you be? I mean,
no clue.
No clue.
Honestly, I have no idea because we have to put the puzzle together first. We don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know we don't even know what the starting five is going to be, right? So we have certain things we have to figure out first. And once we figure that out internally, then we can start looking at expectations. Right now, we don't know.
What will training camp be like with these young guys?
Fast. It's going to be a lot of these guys are going to be running and running and running and running, just full of energy.
You going to be with them?
No, not for all that. Not for, I'll be there for some of it.
Yeah.
Probably, Meta and I both.
Yeah, but you know your body so well. You know when enough's enough.
Yeah. You have to accept that. You can't fight it. You just have to accept it. Like if I knew this was going to be my last year, I'd say it. There's no. Now the question of like, how do you know? I don't know. When I talk to Jeter and Mike and all these guys, and it's different for all of them, right? So it's not a consistent thread. So I don't know what that's going to be like. Am I going to wake up one morning and be like, okay, you know what? Now I don't feel like playing anymore. I'm done. Is it a gradual thing? I don't know. Well, I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, no matter what.
Oh, no matter what. It's just like, it's the time to move on or not. Do you want to play some more or not? And I don't know how that process is going to happen.
That's a terrific interview.
Oh, I loved everything he said in that. There's so many things to look at, but I'll start right at the end and see. To me, that's the way I always think about being done. I was always amazed when somebody could go into the year saying, this is my last year. I'm always like, how do you know? And at some point, are you then only retiring because you said you had to retire and you don't want to look foolish saying I'm retiring and coming back? Now, some people still come back. I'm always amazed that you can say that without knowing. I completely agree with, and you don't have to be an all-time great to have that feeling. It can be, you could be at any point of a career, but to sit there and say, I don't know when I'm going to be done. I think that really is a resounding thing when I hear that, as opposed to, oh yeah, I know this is my last year no matter what.
That was an animated, insightful, introspective Kobe Bryant. Really, really interesting. And you heard what Phil Jackson said about his future. He says he thinks he may be done with the Lakers, but not done entirely.
Mike and Mike.
We're back and better than ever. And the Hall of Famer Chris Carter has joined us in our studio, as he does every Tuesday, with his Subway Fresh take all around the NFL. We got NBA stuff, we got baseball, and a whole lot more college football coming up in a few minutes as well. Good morning, CC.
Good morning. What's going on?
Well, a lot of, obviously, Aaron Rodgers and the Chiefs struggling and everything. We'll get to all of that, but we just played, and I know you got a chance to see it as well, what we both thought was a really good and interesting sit-down interview with Shelley Smith and Kobe Bryant. And kudos to Shelley. I think it's a testament to how comfortable Kobe is with her and how much he respects her, that he was willing to sort of be as let his guard down as much as he did in that conversation. Because it was that was a Kobe you don't see often. He's usually got that stern look and he sort of puts up that wall. And that was he was very open about a lot of that stuff. Now, here's the one part I thought was really interesting and that I'm not going to say I don't believe. I think he may go into it with this intention. When they were talking about mentoring young people, Shelley was saying that she teaches and she sees young people getting it and she gets so much excitement. And you saw Kobe's face light up. And he was talking about when he was a young player and trying to soak everything in like a sponge. And he then suggested he is going to love being a mentor to these young kids. And that's the part of it I think is going to be an interesting struggle. At Kobe Bryant at this stage, do you see him ready to assume that position in his career as a teacher of young players through all their mistakes?
Well, based on the interview and based on the access that Shelley has with Kobe, this is a different Kobe. This is a Kobe who realizes that age is not on his side. He's also talked to a lot of people that I thought was very interesting. He talked to, guys who might really understand, guys who have lived the same type of lifestyle, have the same type of pedigree, Derek Jeter, Michael Jordan. He said the stories were all different. So I think that he was very, very truthful. Now, I know because I'm very good friends with Ron Harper, who spent a lot of time with Kobe when Kobe was young. And he mentored Kobe and helped Kobe make the transition and broke up a couple fights between him and Shaq and everything. So I think Kobe's very, very serious about it because Kobe has seen the number of players that have invested in his career, and that is one of the caveats on the backside. The only thing I can really compare it to, and not comparing myself to Kobe Bryant, when we drafted Randy Moss, some of the things he was able to do in practice from me telling him, the things I would never be able to do while we were working out, he would be able to do them. And there was a great deal of appreciation for the game of football and the transferring of knowledge of football, because I wouldn't be able to do those things, and to see this young player be able to do it and take it to another level, it was very, very satisfying. So I could relate to Shelley and the look on Kobe's face when he was talking about mentoring.
The one big difference is the fact that you're in the Hall of Fame, and so is Randy Moss, is right?
He's going to be, yeah.
He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, right? Kobe, in my opinion, is going to get unbelievably frustrated.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah,
you mentored a guy who turned out to be a Hall of Fame player. What I think,
and
Kobe,
on really good teams.
What I think Kobe is going to do, I think Kobe is going to lead more by example, and certainly given situations, he'll explain things. But then I think he's going to be like a Larry Bird when Larry Bird tried to coach at Indiana, and guys just couldn't play the way he wanted them to play. He got unbelievably frustrated. And that's what I see out of Kobe, because I think Kobe, everything sounds great right now. But Kobe, and I'm not saying this as a negative, when you put the jersey on and the shorts on and you throw the ball up and you start to play or start to practice, Kobe turns into Kobe. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean in a way he's going to express himself. He's going to expect those young players to listen to him and do it the right way. And a lot of times that's not going to happen. And I think there's going to be some frustration to go along with the fact that they're probably not going to win much.
I disagree, because Kobe, this is what he's saying. This is the first time in his career he ever said that he's looking forward to mentoring. Now, I've mentored hundreds of players, but I get the most credit for Randy Moss because he was the most famous, and he's Hall of Famer. But all levels of players. So you get players. It's not you mentor a player because he's good. You mentor a player because you care about the overall development of younger players. So I give Kobe benefit of the doubt. I know he just didn't sit there with Shelley because he's gone through a couple frustrating years. So I think he's a little beyond that, and he's accepted it because his body's failed him. So I think he has a better chance at this stage after seeing his body failing him. So if he says it, I'm going to take him to heart on what he says. Now, has he shown to be very, very selfish and very, very, yes, but he said he's changing.
Yeah, and I believe he thinks that.
I do as well.
And
I believe he thinks he has, but it's an opinion thing, and what we're doing here is I think when they start playing, I think Kobe comes out, and I think Kobe's going to be frustrated.
It's going to be interesting because here's really the question. How does he envision himself going out? I mean, you hear him talking. You just quoted it. He was talking to Jeter. He was talking to Michael. Does he envision himself going out on a great team, or does he envision himself going out? Well, that's the point.
He told you. He said, I don't know where we don't have expectations.
Right.
Let's get together. Let's see what we have. Let's carve out some roles. So this is one of the few times that Kobe didn't say he was going for a championship.
But he also said, I'm not a guy that's going to be averaging 15 points a game. I'd rather be done than do that. So he's a guy that's still going to try and get his. And last year he was. He was averaging, 23?
Oh, my God, he was unbelievable.
He was playing great until, the injury.
Look, he was shooting about 30%.
Right. But he's playing all by himself.
But see, I guess that's my point. Is that really going to change? Because in one vein, he says, I'm looking to help everyone. And the other, he says, I ain't going out as a 15-point a game guy.
Yeah, I can still mentor a guy shooting the ball, though. Yeah, I can still.
See what I did there?
Yeah,
See how I released that?
Yeah, just watch me.
Here's the other thing, though, is you heard what Phil Jackson said. Now, Phil knows Kobe awfully well. They did a whole lot of stuff together over the years and won a whole bunch of titles, 5 titles together. Phil, when he was asked, when he had his press conference in New York last week, when he was asked, do you believe this is Kobe's last year? He was very careful. Now, Phil loves to tweak, so, I mean, who knows? But Phil said, well, I believe it's his last year with the Lakers. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll be his last year. I think Kobe, now I'm just projecting myself into this, but I've got to believe Kobe wants one more shot at winning, don't you think? I mean, don't you think he'd love to, if you're going to work your behind off to come back as many times as he can, as he has, that he wants one more shot at another championship?
Yes, but this is the thing. L.A. doesn't want him back for another year. So what are going to be the real opportunities? Like, Kobe needs to be focused on this year because if he gets hurt again, his career's over.
Right.
So trying to think about where you're going to be and all that, there is no exit strategy out of this game, man. Ask all of the great ones, man. I don't care how many championships you won. There is no exit. How do I quit? How do I walk away from this? Because I don't care who you are, you're not walking into something that's better. You know? Derek Jeter, he might be doing a whole bunch of things great, has his own publication, all those things, but it's not like being captain of the Yankees.
Right.
So it's tough to get out. And that's what we see with Kobe Bryant. How do I get out?
There's the side of it of his 20th year this year. He's going to break John Stockton's record for most years, with the one team. So he's going to have that record. And is there a pull of, I only want to play for the one team? Do you want that on your resume, as opposed, along with 5 championships and walking into the Hall of Fame and in the Hall of Fame, the big room of the Hall of Fame? Or is it, because I've always said when Jerry Rice moved on and people said, we should just retire a 49er, my thought process always is, listen, if somebody wants to play and put in the work to play, go play. Go enjoy it. But I always wonder then from the other side, what's the pull of I've played for one organization for 20 years and I'm going to call it quits, or I just still have that desire to play somewhere. If it has to be somewhere else, so be it. There's
a couple things that come into play with that. For one is your overall ability. Derek Jeter quit because he couldn't play at a level that he'd be satisfied, and the injuries, okay? Michael Jordan left Chicago because of management. Okay, so Kobe would leave the Lakers. Why? Because of management and their inability to win. So there's a number of reasons why guys aren't able to finish out. There's a great deal. Me and Marino, we had great conversations about him finishing his career with the Dolphins. Now, he was able to do it. Now, there is a certain amount of value to it, and there's a certain amount of rarity and specialness to a guy being able to accomplish it.
Yeah, remember there was that brief period, like a flirtation that Marino might come back and play in Minnesota? And he didn't do it. And, all of us who just sort of romanticize this stuff to an unrealistic place think it's so wonderful that everybody played in one place.
I don't care if you're an all-time great or a 10th-round pick. Everybody wants to have a long career and would love it to be in one place and be in that community.
But no one remembers Franco Harris as a Seahawk.
It's exactly right. My point is you want that, but in reality, it's a low percentage of time.
I would have loved to stay in Philadelphia. I'd love to have played 16 years in Philadelphia. But sometimes the road get a little fork in it.
And as we all know, the great Yogi Berra once said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. All right, wake up on the bright side, Mike and Mike, brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. They take care of you so you can take care of business. Book now at LQ.com. You're waking up on the bright side in Green Bay this morning. 5 more touchdowns and no picks for Aaron Rodgers last night. His numbers continue to be remarkable, and with him, of course, it just continues to be the eye test as well. In his last 16 regular season home games, so one season's worth of home games, his team is 15-1. He's thrown for 4,472 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So he was talking after the game about how it's easier with the crowd. They can make their verbal checks and all that. CC, why is it that he's just unstoppable at home?
Well, for one, he has such access to the whole playbook. Him and Mike McCarthy, an offensive coordinator, have come up with a system that it's almost unfair. It's the same thing that we're seeing with Tom Brady, home and on the road, but especially at home. And Peyton Manning, what we've seen for years, taking advantage of the defense, dictating a pace to the defense and coverage that the defense has never been able to see before. Typically, the offense was always adjusting to the defense and the defensive fronts of what they have in. Now, the offenses and these quarterbacks and their ability for the coach to be able to communicate in their head and to run not a hurry-up offense, but getting to the line of scrimmage, they have such an advantage. And Aaron Rodgers, his ability to get the ball in shotgun from center, and from the time the ball touches his hand to getting into the receiver's hand is the quickest in football. And it seems like the routes and everything are very, very easy to guard and everything, but it's more difficult than you realize. Because the receivers have more options, and they're playing man-to-man, and Aaron Rodgers, even when you have him covered, he buys more time. So you can't cover guys forever. You get injuries in the secondary like the Chiefs.
Yep.
I expected to get that result.
That's a really interesting point, Chris, you just made. So, Mike, I want to take it to you as a former defensive player. Just imagine yourself in that situation where they're dictating to you. You were on those defenses that would dictate to the offense, question. And they would adjust based upon what you were doing. Now imagine you're out there on that field. Can you sort of give us a sense of the confusion that there might be with just trying to get lined up before?
Here's what I say from a front seven person. And if you just dropped down and said last night one guy was going to be sacked once, one guy was going to be sacked 7 times, I would have said, because I thought this was an athletic rush for Kansas City with the backers that they have coming on the outside, that they would be able to get some sacks on Aaron Rodgers, even as athletic as he is. But it was the other way around. It was Green Bay who got the 7 sacks. So if I'm rushing and I see a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers get out of the pocket, man, my heart's dropping. Because I know we can't cover that long in the defensive secondary if he buys more time. So the whole key for up front guys is keep him in the pocket. And he can still kill you from there, but don't give him the added advantage of scooting out of the pocket and now making your secondary cover longer.
But take me pre-snap now. So now they've just got a first down right on a 15-yard completion. They're running up to the line of scrimmage.
Sure.
And he's not necessarily snapping the ball immediately.
No.
They're ready.
No. It's not necessarily a quick strike offense. He's waiting to see. If you got a guy running off the field, then they'll quick snap it and get themselves 12 on the field like they did. Then he'll hard count you to get a free play going down the field. He got one for a 52-yard gain. That's the thing. If they're they go to the line, the same personnel's in the game, because if they substitute, the defense gets to substitute. So
they take away your rotation.
Right. Exactly.
One of the advantages to the defense is the front, and the front being able to rotate 6 or 7 guys. Go ahead.
So if you want to rotate a guy and you try and run off a tired D lineman, they're going to get on the ball and snap it, and they're going to get 12 men. So you're stuck with that out there. As far as coverage, they have the same personnel. They're not reinventing the wheel out here. Okay? This isn't, as much as some of our quarterbacks think quarterback play is rocket science, it's not as far as coverages and what you're looking at. They still have the same 11 people on the field, and they're lining up in a certain way, so you can have a defense for it. But a combination of Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers' quick release, Aaron Rodgers getting out of the pocket quickly, the defensive secondary having all kind of injuries, including last night when Gaines comes out and Branch comes in, and the first pass is to Cobb on a little rub route, and Branch has to go behind the defender, and the first time he touches Cobb, he's on the goal line. So that's how you take advantage of the situation. But this isn't rocket science, right, out there? I mean, when you have to line up, the same 11 are out there.
Okay, this is what's going on. the offense has the ability. I'm going to take you back to your Eagles days when you guys would play a Bear-Eagle front. If you were playing against Aaron Rodgers yesterday, they wouldn't have let you play a Bear-Eagle front. They would have flexed the tight end or put a receiver out to make you indicate. And the double cadence is one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Hot, hot!
Yeah.
And then you indicate what coverage you're in. Okay, then Aaron moves a guy difference. He say, okay, I got Randall Cobb on a backup safety who's now playing corner. Or I got a tight end because in the Bear-Eagle front, which Golic played in, the linebacker had the tight end one-on-one. Now, you couldn't play that today because these linebackers can't cover these tight ends. And the offenses today would flex him out in the slot or put him out wide. So that's how you exploit it. And now they're getting rid of the ball between 2 and 2.5 seconds. So that's the way you negate the rush. But Aaron Rodgers' ability to make you already afraid of keeping him in the pocket, that slows down the rush. And he is one of the best throwers of the football, not only mechanically, the zip on the ball, but his feet and how he gets in position to throw it.
So what defeats that? You go back to our defenses and say you don't want to bring out a linebacker. You don't want Seth to go out on the tight end, so you bring a safety. Maybe you put a safety out, but because you still want the quick pressure. Now what you're doing is going to execution. Now you're saying we're going to get pressure on you, and we feel the ball's going to come out quickly, and we know where the ball's going. When the Jets were picking off, who were they getting the interceptions in their first game?
Johnny Manziel.
So you blitz. Now, Johnny, it's a difference of Johnny Manziel and obviously Aaron Rodgers, but a team like we're talking about, take your Jets. You go for quick pressure, and you have two really good corners. You have cover guys. That's what can help. That's what can help a lot, because if you keep the quarterback contained and you know the ball is coming out quick, you know it's going to be a shorter route, and you have really good cover corners, that's going to be an advantage. That's an advantage that we had in Philadelphia, which can work. But if you don't have that on your defense, Aaron Rodgers is going to take advantage of what part of it you don't have.
And one of the other things that's changed is they have too many rub routes, too many pick routes, too many bubble screens, too many jailbreak screens. They have all these blitz beaters. If you want to do that kind of stuff, Julio Jones, we'll throw the ball sideways, get a couple blocks, we'll throw the ball to the flat. So there are so many other weapons to attack the blitz and to attack the defense. That's why we see what we saw last night. Randall Cobb, they're not going to be able to match a guy up. When Aaron Rodgers can pretty much call the plays at his discretion and with that snap count, yes, they're going to be very good at Lambeau. And the Packers have pretty much always been good at Lambeau. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not going to say he's the best Packer quarterback ever, but, man, he's real good. They've been blessed 3 times.
They have a couple to pick from.
Bart Starr.
Yeah.
Yes. Brett
Starr
Favre.
and Favre. And now this.
You look at two, as I said it before, you look at two franchises that have gone from quarterback to quarterback. Now, Andrew Luck's in a bit of a lull here, but you had Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, and you had Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Pretty nice. You also had, obviously, Joe Montana and then Steve Young. So there have been some great back-to-backers, no doubt about it. But this could go down as one of the all-time greats. Though, when you're talking about accomplishments, Aaron, when you look in the totality of it, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to close the deal on some of these and raise a couple of Vince Lombardi trophies.
Yeah, that's what everyone is saying, and they're mistaking what I said earlier. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all time. He's got a lot. He's like halfway through his career. So does he need to win a few more big games? Look, last year's NFC Championship game is a devastating loss. That's a terrible loss. That's a Super Bowl I think they're going to win if they just field an onside kick or whatever number of things there are. Yeah, with quarterbacks, we sometimes count the championships. Whether we should or we shouldn't, we do. So if he finishes with 1, then he's not going to wind up being considered the greatest quarterback of all time. But it's really more to your point, Chris, and I brought this up earlier today. I compared watching the way Aaron Rodgers throws the ball to when you play golf and you hit one exactly right. You know that sizzle the ball has? It kind of seems to pick up speed halfway down. Like as it's going, it's getting faster and faster. Rodgers somehow seems to do that. Now, I can't tell you through the laws of physics how it is he does that, but he throws a ball with a sizzle on it that seems to get faster as it moves.
I mean, he's got a beautiful throwing motion. He's got a very, very quick release. I would equate it to, like Dan Marino, a little more over the top, but better feet and better. Dan's legs got hurt early. Dan was a great athlete in high school, basketball, shortstop in baseball. But Aaron, his feet get him in a position that he only needs a flick. I mean, he has unbelievable feet, and he is a great athlete. Not a good one. He is a great athlete.
My comparison was a guy that could kill you from the pocket or could scoot and kill you on the move was John Elway. You know, a guy who John Elway was a heck of an athlete as well.
Yes.
And could escape, not going to destroy you running, but can do damage just like Aaron can. But if he gets on the move again, he's got
John more of a long strider. Yeah. Also, John loved to throw the ball deep and take the chances, and not as accurate as Aaron. But John Elway wrote to his left. You better watch the right side of the field because he can throw the ball all the way across the other side of the field like nobody's business.
Rodgers, by the way, is still
example.
only 31 years old. He's currently younger than Brandon Whedon, by the way. I was looking up some of these numbers the other day. So Rodgers has 7, 8, 9 years left. You would think the way these guys go at their peak.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNradio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Last week, Julie Carroll posted a status that read, "Just had the most delicious banana ever." It got 2 likes and 4 comments. Well, Julie, Geico also wants to make a comment. What if we told you in as little as 15 minutes you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance by switching to Geico? With those hundreds of dollars, we bet you can find another banana equally, if not more delicious than the one you had last week. Hashtag go bananas. Hashtag savings.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.